Queen Elizabeth II all but pioneered the walkabout, so why was she so sick of them at the end? And why did the royal family make fun of Kate Middleton's walkabout style? When Europe and the world at large was ravaged by the damages of World War II, morale was at an all-time low. In an attempt to boost the public confidence and attitudes surrounding the war effort, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, visited Commonwealth countries to visit with the public. In order to bridge the gap between themselves and the public, Elizabeth simply started engaging with the soldiers who had come to see them, and the walkabout was born. Of the Queen, John Amers, head of the Monarchist League of Canada, further told the Globe and Mail, "She just plunged through that Ottawa crowd, and it just wasn't done in those days." Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, later reflected on the walkabout and the visit to Canada as a whole, admitting, "I lost my heart to Canada and to Canadians, and my feelings have not changed with the passage of time." When Queen Elizabeth II hit the royal scene, she was merely a princess who was not in line for the throne in any life-altering capacity. But when her uncle abdicated and then her father took the throne and later passed, it was her turn to take on the role. Though her mother started the walkabout tradition, many members of the public only got glimpses of the royal family as they were driven through the streets in cars. Harper's Bazaar notes that there was little public interaction, and even Princess Anne reflected on that aspect of the royal rules when greeting fans, saying, "We never shook hands. The theory was you couldn't shake hands with everybody, so don't start." However, the late Queen significantly changed the game in the flower power era.
The 70s was the decade where the Queen reached out to her people.
Debuting the walkabout in Australia and New Zealand, the Queen's new way of interacting with the public allowed her to meet more than just the typical heads of state. By doing so, as history notes, the Queen bucked centuries of royal tradition in a single stroll. Queen Elizabeth II is remembered for a variety of things. Her dedication to the crown superseded every other member of the royal family, and her commitment to remaining politically neutral enabled many members of the Commonwealth to identify with her. Of course, she'll go down in history as the longest-serving monarch in British history, and her Jubilee celebrations were often accompanied by pomp and circumstance, as well as public interaction. The Queen and Prince Philip arrived at St Paul's Cathedral via the Gold State coach for her 25th Jubilee celebration, where the Queen greeted members of the public outside the storied church. About 25 years later, the Queen was at it again, celebrating half a century on the throne. It was not only a time of jubilee, but also of personal loss, as the Queen had suffered the deaths of both her mother and sister in 2002.
I thank you for the support you are giving me and my family as we come to terms with her death.
But just as she did all those years prior, the Queen marked her 50th Jubilee with members of the public, travelling 40,000 miles across the Commonwealth throughout the year. She visited 70 cities and 50 countries, while taking part in the now famous walkabout. In 2016, Queen Elizabeth II turned 90 years old, and as such, the country and Commonwealth as a whole threw quite a party. As noted on the official royal website, the streets were lined with well-wishers who came out to celebrate the big day, and of course the Queen partook in a number of walkabouts amid the festivities. Some of the highlights of the Queen's 90th birthday were detailed by the royal family's Twitter account at the time. The monarch was met with a number of happy birthday tunes while engaging in walkabouts, and was even presented with a cake made by Nadia Hussain, the winner of the Great British Bake Off in 2015. Simply put, the Queen's 90th birthday was a can't-miss celebration.
Oh, really? Please.
Boom.
While there certainly seems to be a lot of love between the Prince of Wales and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, she is arguably the royal family's secret weapon when it comes to good public relations, a dignified front, and a great example of the crown. Simply put, Catherine knows how to be a royal and how to play the game extremely well. While she is certainly the publicly approved face of the monarchy, Catherine admitted during a documentary made honouring the Queen that the royal family made fun of her due to her approach to walkabouts.
Everyone teases me in the family that I spend far too long chatting, so I think I've still got to learn a little bit more.
The Princess of Wales said that while it was all in good fun, she takes the walkabout very seriously, telling the cameras that Queen Elizabeth II offered to help take her through the walkabout steps. Catherine later said that the Queen had been a wonderful guide to the art of the walkabout. Over 7 decades, the Queen witnessed quite a bit of progress in technology and communication. While some would argue that smartphones, social media, and consistent documentation of the world are positive things, the Queen was said to have gotten a bit fed up with walkabouts and the public in general due to a camera phone always being in her face. Royal author Ian Lloyd, who wrote The Queen, 70 Chapters in the Life of Elizabeth II, told The Express that the practice of walkabouts had changed drastically from when the Queen first introduced them in the 1970s. Walkabouts were set up by her in the 1970s as a way of meeting people, but these days people only want selfies and photographs of her. They just hold up their cameras or, even more alarming, their iPads. So she is faced with a wall of that when she looks at the crowd. It's horrible. Early in her engagement to Harry, all eyes were on Meghan Markle when she was on her inaugural walkabout, as it was the first of a series of tests to see how she would adjust to royal life. But as Meghan revealed on the Netflix documentary Harry and Meghan, the walkabout wasn't nearly as simple as it appeared to be. In fact, she claimed she didn't even know what it was until she found herself participating in one in real time.
I never saw pictures or videos of a walkabout. It's like, what's a walkabout?
Still, her very first attempt at the public practice went off without a hitch, and she was captured greeting well-wishers, shaking hands and chatting with members of the public like a pro. And while she made it through, Meghan admitted that the formalities of royal life were certainly jarring, saying, "Americans will understand this. We have medieval times, dinner and tournament. It was like that."
Hold that thought. Showtime.
Unless you've been living under a rock, you know that Prince William and Prince Harry have been feuding for years. William, as the direct heir to the throne, is very much embroiled in the royal way of life and tradition. Harry, on the other hand, is making it a point to highlight the institution's shortcomings, exposing centuries-old judgments, unnecessary tradition, and more, not to mention doing so all the way from California. To say that the brothers are doing things very differently is an understatement, and the two have rarely been seen together in recent years. That all changed, however, when they reunited in the aftermath of Queen Elizabeth II's passing, partaking in a walkabout that grabbed everyone's attention. The four greeted mourners, engaged in conversation, and placed flowers in the Queen's memory. The walkabout garnered so much attention given its rather historic undertaking. It certainly was not expected that the brothers would reunite in such a public display of collective mourning. Before we get to the walkabout as it stands today, we have to look back at the practice when it was undertaken by Diana Spencer, the late Princess of Wales. Diana, just a teenager at the time of her engagement to the then Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales, became a dynamic member of the royal family, known for doing things her way. While the walkabout is certainly a more informal way for the royal family to interact with members of the public, there is still a formal approach to the practice. Many royal family members choose to wear gloves when shaking hands and greeting fans to avoid the passing of germs. But in Diana's perspective, gloves were yet another barrier between herself and members of the public, so she greeted people barehanded. Ellery Lynn, the curator of the Diana Spencer exhibit at Kensington Palace, told People, "Diana wanted to convey approachability and warmth. She abandoned the royal protocol of wearing gloves because she liked to hold hands when visiting people or shake hands and have direct contact. She also stopped wearing hats because she said you can't cuddle a child in a hat." The COVID-19 pandemic had stopped members of the royal family from interacting with the public in such a close contact capacity for quite some time. But as the pandemic's veracity continues to decrease with time, the royals are back at it again with the walkabout. Members of the public flooded the streets in the wake of Queen Elizabeth II's passing, and though he was clearly mourning his mother, King Charles III took the time to interact with those grieving.
And I think that this is a powerful moment. The fact that he's grieving, he recognizes the magnitude of the monarchy as well.
As noted by The Telegraph, Charles and Camilla partook in a walkabout while travelling from their residence of Clarence House to Buckingham Palace. Greeting mourners on Stable Yard, which is just off the Mall, Charles and Camilla shook hands, chatted with members of the public, received flowers, and generally made their presence known as the new reigning monarchs of Great Britain. Charles was met with a number of iterations of God Save the King, the national anthem that was changed overnight from the decades-old God Save the Queen, marking yet another colossal change thrust Charles's way. Though it was only the second day of mourning, the new king made it known that walkabouts would continue to be a practice throughout his reign.